When we eat the rich, I'm eating the Monopoly man first. Are you really not going to say the amuse-bouche line? Really? That's what this is? That's what this is going to be?
Devin, you got it. Were you recording?
Yes, I started recording again, and then I said it again, and I just thought, hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Say Report, or welcome to the Say Report. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks, and apparently that shows. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my own personal amuse-bouche and host companion, it's Siegen Sarowick. How you doing, Siegen?
I'm doing fine. I'm still not 100% clear on if we're still recording or not.
We are recording, and we are recording something fun and new and exciting. Something that I am calling our first one-part, two-part episode. I'm jumping right into it. So, as many people pointed out, we missed our episode last week. And I do want to thank everybody who reached out to make sure that everything was okay. I don't know if you received any contact from people, Siegen, but many people were like, is everything all right? You guys have never missed a Monday before. Which I don't know if that's 100% true. I feel like when I had the flu, the February before the start of the whole COVID thing, we may have been a little bit late because we have an episode called The Delayed Report, but I still released it on Monday, of that February, so I don't freaking know. Who knows? But we have been very diligent in the 462 episodes of the Say Report to not miss a Monday. We record buffer episodes and all that. So again, thank you to Lance. Thank you to some other people. Claude mentioned you guys missed the Monday. Is everything okay? Everybody who reached out to be like, is everything good? Bradley Mellenbacher. Even up to Hab Guy today. Did you guys say something in the episode of Running Man about missing the first? Like that you were going to skip it? So thank you to everybody for your concern. I do appreciate that. It is nice to know that there are listeners out there who do depend on it and who were worried about where we are in life, especially as I've been hella cagey about something huge having happened in my life throughout just all of November. And I'm going to remain cagey if that's allowed. But the TLDR before we go too long must listen in this actual episode of the show is that a funny thing happened on Siegen's way back to Utah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think that this was unique to me in any way, but on the traveling back from Thanksgiving, I mean, I got stuck in that giant ass winter storm right in the middle of the country.
Yeah. So, and we had, we were already kind of cutting it close. I will admit that. We were dancing with danger, as they say. Straight up to the fact that we had recorded the episodes that you guys got to listen to. I don't even remember the one prior to the trilogy of 2025 because I was just so proud with the trilogy of 2025. Oh, Saturday Morning Live portions pre-recorded was the other episode. So we did a Saturday, Sunday, and we had plans to record that Sunday that Siegen was in Rhode Island because we got to spend time together. You're going to hear all about that. But then those plans didn't end up working out. And Siegen's like, but I'll be back at home the following Monday. We'll record that day. We'll still get it out for Monday. We'll be fine. And you know what they say? If you want to make God laugh, make a plan. And so because of the Say Report, a bunch of snow was dumped on the middle of the country. So we apologize for that. Now,
yeah, but I ended up spending a delightful time in the Philly airport on Monday, inevitably getting on a plane at noon on Monday when I was supposed to leave at 7 a.m. on Sunday. And I spent an hour just at a bar that was literally right next to my gate, so loved that, Philly. And the woman next to me was a Chicago Bears fan who was there for the Philly game that had gone on a couple of days prior, in which the Bears fucking stomped the Eagles.
All right. Well, before we get to all the cool talking stuff, let's just finish up the whole thing, and then I'll put the time on the clock because I want to hear all about your week because what we're doing here, we still want to deliver 52 episodes to you for the year 2025 or the season 9 of the Say Report. So, like I said, we're doing a 1-part, 2-part episode. I'm going to put time on my handy dandy timer here. I'm putting 70 minutes on it. And we're going to talk for those 70 minutes, and that's exclusively going to be about the week that we missed. Or we're going to try to make it exclusively about the week that we missed, which is essentially from the Sunday that we actually hung out in person together through Thanksgiving and that whole holiday. And then...
Do you understand the risk that we are embarking on in the year of our Lord 2025?
You're their Lord, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's just like to act like a week in time hasn't happened yet is impossible.
I mean, but it's a fun challenge, right? So we are going to try to do that for part 1. Once the timer goes off, that's it. I'm going to say to be continued, and we're going to end the episode. And then we're going to start recording the second episode, which will try to be about this past week. So basically like December 1st through to today, December 7th, a day which will live in infamy. I mean, not 2025, possibly 2025, but like back in the 1940s during World War II. Which actually reminds me, big shout out and thank you to all of the listeners that we've garnered in Germany and Tokyo. Or Japan, like that. Like, I'm glad that you guys are listening. We have an international audience, Siegen. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I just thank you very much for being here from overseas. We're very sorry, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, right. It's one of those situations. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. And the big thing is this part that you're listening to is releasing at its normal time, 12 midnight Eastern time. So you'll have that. And then the second part of this episode will go live at noontime, Eastern time on Monday, December 8th. So you're going to get a full episode, but we're going to do some like fun fudging around, kind of basically what the South Park guys have done with the fact that season 27 was 5 episodes and season 28 is 5 episodes. So that when it comes to the 30th anniversary, they'll be working on the 30th season. It has been a lot of fun watching like personalities on YouTube lose their minds over why did they do a 5-episode season when it's clearly just so that, oh, it's our 30th anniversary and our 30th season is the answer to that.
Yeah, it's not much more difficult than that. They just...
Yeah. All right.
They have free reign to do whatever the fuck they want, and they take full advantage of it.
We get to do what we are the dream makers. We get to control our own histories. That's how creatives feel. At least that's how I feel. Anyway, there's 70 minutes on the clock. Siegen, tell me about your Thanksgiving, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and do that without referencing how RFK turned out to be a crab person, but we'll talk about that later in the next part, I guess. No, yeah, Thanksgiving was Thanksgiving was a ride. I mean, like literally. I came into town. We hung out the first few days, and then I took a drive out to Atlantic City and hung out with some people for a good time out there. And then it just came to fucking Sunday when it was time to go. It was just woof. It was a fucking mess all over this country. We had friends that were supposed to be landing in Denver that couldn't even get into Denver. We had friends that were going through Chicago O'Hare. That's where I was kind of in that group, and that wasn't going to happen. And then like people were getting rerouted in places, and like, you know, the fucking all of this shit going on with them deregulating all of that stuff about like what airlines are supposed to do for people. Like, I know that it's probably not directly related to that, the shitty customer service that I seem to be receiving more and more lately with airlines, but like it feels like it's pretty much on par with that, right? And it all trickles down from the top, like the ways in which like the Biden administration was like forcing airlines to become better businesses, and you know, you can feel about that all you want, but as somebody that flies a lot, I really appreciated it that they were doing things like making them offer refunds and shit, you know, and then all this shit happened on Sunday, and it was just a mess. It was a fucking mess. I ended up paying more money, like, which I feel like I shouldn't have. If my flight got moved around, how did I end up putting another $50 down eventually?
Right,
It
and
was
exactly,
nuts.
and it's not like it got moved around like for a human error or something like that, or like we had to cancel
Right.
because we didn't sell enough tickets. It was an act of God, right? A force of nature. You're
Well,
lucky
that's
that
exactly
you didn't
the
wind
point,
up in a
right?
relationship
Is like that's
with,
kind of the problem. Is that the reason that the airlines are not in a position to have to do anything is because current regulations. I don't know if they ever got touched whenever the Biden stuff had gone through 5 years ago at this point, but the current regulations dictate that standard of practice, I guess is the better way to put it, is that if it's an act of God, they don't have any responsibility for it. So they don't give you refunds or anything like that. It sucks. You're not entitled to vouchers. The thing is that they use those things as perks for the higher tiers of flyers, right? If you're a Diamond's reward member, then you can get a refund, or you can get a hotel voucher, or at least a meal voucher or something. Like they use that as incentive for you to get in on their program. It's like, hey, we will do the bare minimum and treat you like a human being if you pay us a little bit more. And it's like, fuck you, man. like, it's not great. I'm not going to call out exactly who I was flying. I don't I use all the airlines and I have issues with all of them. It's not like I have like a fanboy of one or the other, but like it was just it was a poor experience, shall we say, trying to get back. And I feel like Utah's just fucking cursed, because I feel like everybody that comes through here deals with something. I don't know if I ever told the story about Zach driving home from here, and his car broke down to the point where he just he couldn't. He had to move home. He had to move. Somehow his drive home from Utah was so bad, and his car got so messed up that he then had to subsequently move home from Silver City, New Mexico, to Rhode Island. That's how bad Utah fucked that poor boy. Oh man.
well, if any state's gonna fuck you, it's probably gonna be Utah. I get that.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah. And then there was my mom and dad getting stuck in Philly in the storm last year.
Yeah.
When they were trying to come out here, they got stuck in Philly for like 3 days.
I mean, I will say, weather events, the fact that I got to see you the past 2 years, I feel so blessed, because I can count on all of my appendages how many times we have had plans and weather has been like, yeah, go fuck yourself. It has happened a lot to us. So I'm glad that I've been blessed these past 2 times to see you before the weather's like, hey, Sejan, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest about it.
But I mean, the thing is like, other than that, like, fucking great holiday, did some crazy shit, party with some kids, tried Molly, didn't work. I don't know what happened there, but I don't know.
The Say Report, the podcast where we're just going to say, yeah, we tried Molly, didn't work. I mean, he tried Molly. I did not try Molly.
No, I was with a group of experienced people that this is a thing that they do annually, and then they asked if I wanted to participate in the ritual, as it were. And we didn't want to push it because it was my first time ever doing it.
Right,
So I wasn't going to sit there and just keep taking it until I felt something. That's like the worst way to do drugs, kids.
Dumbest way to do drugs.
Yeah. So I did a dose, did a redose a little bit later. Nothing was really happening, so we just kind of called it a night. I did have a little bit of what they call the Molly flu for like the next 3 days afterwards, where you're just kind of like mopey and like you feel like you were sick, but you feel like you've just gotten over being sick. But yeah, so I had all the bad effects and none of the fun stuff.
Yeah, right? All the responsibility, none of the fun. Sejan on Molly.
No, but like this is so like it was a true honest to God like holiday though, right? Like because I wasn't there's this I love my family. I'm gonna say that before I say anything else, just in case anything I say further could be misinterpreted. But this idea that like there are obligations when you go home, right? When you go to your old home. My home is now here, but
I know what you mean. When you go back home, right?
Right. And so there's this idea that like you aren't disengaged, right? Like you are, even though you're not in your own life anymore and you're just seeing the family, like you're responsible for stuff still there in a way that like the vacation that I was on this week, I was just not responsible for shit, right? Even the few days that you and I were together, or I was in Rhode Island at least, when you and I were together, I was not responsible for anything, right? Like, that was awesome. Like, it was a very freeing vacation in a way that a lot of vacations nowadays really just aren't for people. And that's a whole fucking America problem right there. But like, this idea that I did actually get to go on vacation is kind of rad. So here's to that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking to like the king of that feeling, because that's one of the reasons why I stopped working for Carnival Cruise Lines, because coming home, right, the 6 months that I was on the ship was excellent, and then I'd come home for 6 weeks, and dear God, the number of like responsibilities and things that I had to take care of in those 6 weeks was just terrifying. And that is supposed to be my time to like refuel and recharge and be ready to be living on a boat again, a ship again for 6 to 8 months. And you just don't have, it's not a vacation, because it's okay, while you're back, you need to do your taxes, right? Because if you don't do your taxes, how are you going to do them while you're at sea? Right? So find an accountant who's working in January who's willing to start your taxes, and then we can submit like all your. I didn't get like a W-2, right? I was an independent contractor, so that whole thing
which
of
is
it,
a whole other fucking kettle of fish.
The like, imagine the holiday responsibilities that you're talking about that conservatively take place over 1 to 2 weeks, right? Slammed into a 6-week period. The people that I had to see, like, it wasn't enjoyable. It was enjoyable that first week that I was back, because I came back for Thanksgiving. So, like, I got to see people who were also in town for Thanksgiving and things like that. So, like, there was kind of that holiday wonderment in the air where, like, we're all here and it's, like, kind of this visitation thing. There's no real responsibilities. But then, like, the people are like, well, I haven't seen you in 6 months. Can you hang out? And I'm like, I really have no desire to go deep into Connecticut today after, like, being in Massachusetts yesterday. But I have all this, so I get it. I understand that. And it's why I'm like, I can't live this dual life anymore. It is killing me. It is exhausting.
But it's what makes the bullshit coming home even harder, right? Is because, like, I was just like, I was finally recharged, I was finally refreshed, I was ready to go, and then that just like killed all my fucking momentum. It was a bummer.
Oh yeah, like but from the outside looking in,
like the whole thing was,
right. But I mean, from the outside looking in, it's like you had like a psychotic break, just like a little bit, where like I was ready, and now you're keeping me from where I want to be. Well, I get it. So that's fun. I mean, I don't know if you want to save like what you did on Thanksgiving, like we have an Adam Sandler episode that's releasing this Friday. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe episode releasing at the end of this week. Do you want to save that experience for that, or like maybe just like a little?
I mean, like I will say here that like I did dive into doing some presentation work about the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe. I think the reason that I don't even bring it up is because it was not hugely in depth, and all it did was show me that you and I need to put our heads together and put it together like a real honest to God like
presentation, academic
summary, like summary presentation of that whole thing. Like maybe we need to talk about like maybe a very special episode of Sandler or something, but we'll do that off mic.
Understood. We can do that off mic, but that was one of the things that I like. Also, I don't know if you've picked up on it, working backwards seems to be the best way that we don't spoil any of the other shit that happened for the second part of this episode. So I mean, I don't remember Saturday, right? Let's talk about, I ended up driving Siege into Philadelphia. We hung out that Sunday. That was the day that he's like, I have designated this as a day for Devin. And I appreciate that, because when he was back like last year, we could have gone and seen Adam Sandler in Manchester, New Hampshire, or at least in that area. And he's like, oh, but I got all these family obligations, so I can't get away to that. And I get it. And also, I think the tickets were like $1,100 each.
Yes, yeah. I think if we looked at it further, we would have realized we weren't going to do it anyway. But
yeah, because all that were left were
dream.
2 front row center seats, and it would have cost. We would have like. I guess we'll like sell some blood, right? We'll have a poor quality of life for one night of incredibleness. But like when you talk about the family obligations, that's a thing. So I appreciated that he's like, Sunday, I'm yours. And then while we're talking Sunday, he's like, yeah, so I'm going to rent a car and drive down to Philadelphia. And I jump up and I'm like, I'll drive you to Philadelphia. First of all, the same-mobile, April-mobile, the same-mobile. Like, it hasn't had an official road trip. The furthest that it has gone is, I think, Holyoke, Massachusetts.
Oh, man.
So, like, it never had its like big inaugural thing, like the Spark, right? Gorgeous, my purple, my ice grape Spark. The Friday after I bought that, I drove down to Nashville.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm surprised
Sam
that
Levine
you hadn't
and
put
Bobby
any other
Lee.
trips on the new car yet.
Well, I mean, the new car, we had the whole Lemon Law issue, right? Where like the radiator just didn't work. So I just never had the opportunity last summer when I would want to be traveling. So the opportunity to drive Sejan down to Philadelphia and extend my time with him by about 5 hours and check off big road trip in the new car, I leapt at that opportunity. I'm actually not sure why I started telling this story. I have to be honest with you.
No, you're just explaining what we did. So you ended up driving me to Philly, and that's what we
Right.
spent most of Tuesday doing.
Yeah.
But you were saying that earlier in that weekend, because that we ended up spending Sunday and Tuesday together basically all day.
So we'll get back to that. But it's about the Saturday after Thanksgiving. While I was driving
after
down, Siege and I, we'll touch back on this when we get to like Sunday, because we are kind of going backwards. We had seen the acoustic duo that I tend to go and see, Mark Boschman and Emily Bond. They were performing at this place, Boomerang's Roadhouse in Rhode Island, that also happens to have the best bacon cheeseburger last 2 years running. So it's like, it was a pretty easy sell to be like, why don't we go check them out? As I'm driving to Philadelphia, Mark contacts me to be like, hey, they canceled the open mic that I usually do on Wednesdays. Would you be able to come out if we shift it to Saturday? And I missed this message because I drove Sejan down to Philadelphia, and that ended up being about 5.5 hours with some stops and a little bit of holiday traffic. And then getting home, as I left the Philadelphia airport, where I, by my own admission, fucking just abandoned Sejan at the airline.
It was nuts. It was holiday travel.
It was holiday travel, of course.
This was not surprising to us. So, like, I don't feel like you abandoned me because we already had talked about how it was going to be nuts.
Yeah, we did talk about that. But it was like, I'm pulled over in the furthest left lane. We're at the place, and I just stop, throw on the hazards, and go, you got to just get out of the car, Sejan. That's how we have to handle this.
Well, I mean, like, to your credit, we were in basically a parking lot anyway. Like, it was bumper to bumper. Nobody was moving. You were like, there's no way I'm going to be able to merge over to drop you off at the curb. And so it was like, you can get out here, or we can spend hours figuring this out. Like,
we can.
No, obviously, I'm going to get out here.
A literal
so I,
hour
jumped
to
out
go
of the
back
car.
around.
We're like yelling at each other the whole time.
Like, no hug, no like, you got to get out of this chopper right now. It's about your life. Like that. And then the other thing is that, like, if I had pulled into short-term parking, we would have been fine. Like, we would have been able to do everything. And I just didn't park. I just like, oh, I'm an idiot, and I went through the left area because it wouldn't have passed like a 10-minute threshold. So like, but and then I like plug in to go home, and it says that it's going to take me 5 hours to get home. So I'm like, oh, 9 o'clock, 9:30, that's perfect. And as I was driving back to Rhode Island from the Philadelphia International Airport, I watched that number click from 9:30 to midnight 30. Just because of the traffic I was hitting. Because, like, the skies decided to open up, and thankfully it wasn't snow, it was just rain. But it was that kind of, like, dirty rain where you can't see through your windshield because somehow mud is falling from the sky. We
live in a dystopian hell future.
Yeah,
but yes,
sure,
yes,
right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But like, it was like sludgy, oily, and I'm just like, like I called Dale and I'm like, just text Siegen that I'm alive, please. I abandoned the boy. So it was a fun drive coming home, but then I wake up the next day because I had the Wednesday off, right, for recovery. That's one of the other things, is that I finally had a real vacation. I don't usually take off the week of Thanksgiving because nothing is happening and it feels like a waste of vacation time. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? Like, I want to use my vacation days on days that, like, I'm avoiding something with my vacation time. I don't want to take off Black Friday when there is nobody on the campus that I work at, you know? Like, that just seems like a waste.
I get it.
But they contacted me, right? Payroll contacted me, and they're like, yeah, you have about 12 days you're going to lose if you don't use them before December 27th. So I'm like, you know what? I'm finally going to have actual vacations for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. So I had that Wednesday to recover. So I wake up, I'm a little bleary-eyed because I just spent the day before driving for like half of a day, like 12 hours. Wonderful time. Real, like, thanks to my family for teaching me how to road trip, because people did not know how to Burger King worked at the rest stop where I stopped once things calmed down. They're like all standing in line waiting to be waited on, but it's all kiosks. So I put in my food and then they call my name, and there's a guy who I just watched getting angrier and angrier as he was not getting waited on. And he was so mad that I got my food before him after strolling in what felt like an hour after the fact. Like, it just felt good to be like, man, I'm glad I understand how to exist in this country on the road. When Mad Max inevitably comes to America, I think I'll be okay. I also like that in my Mad Max scenario, rest stops in New Jersey have survived. Nowhere else, specifically in New Jersey.
I mean, they are built like fucking bunkers. So
they really are. Like, I would totally believe that they survive. Like, that's not like fun for this episode. Full withheld true belief in my heart is that the New Jersey rest areas will be one of the only remaining traces of pre-civilization once we're all driving around, and that's our entire life.
I was about to say I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I'm not big on like crazy ass like world altering like conspiracies. Like I don't believe that there's like a cabal of people secretly running the nation. I mean, not secretly, because we know that there's a certain number of billionaires that actually are, but that's a whole other conversation, right? But there is definitely stuff out there that I am so into about, like the rest stops and the tunnels in New York and things like that. Basically, all of the old infrastructure in the that would have been built in like the 70s and 80s when they were really building up like a lot of that sort of stuff in order to you know, make the roads better and help people travel better and things like that. And how they must have been putting fail safes in that part of the country for like the president, right? Like,
yeah.
Or like important people, like this is where you go, this is where your bunker is, this is where your bunker is, because we were talking about like the Cold War, right? And like the idea that like how paranoid we got during the Cold War, the way that our government reacted to that was like they invested in a bunch of property, and they invested in a bunch of infrastructure projects that they could then also secretly do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes on.
Look, you do not, as the vice president, allegedly have the current president assassinated in Dallas and then not have fail-safes in place to avoid the same thing being done to you. I'm just going to say, allegedly, right? If the vice president were to have the current president assassinated in, say, like 1963, so that he could, fuel Vietnam and make a bunch of money through the arms department that his wife was the main stockholder in at the time, like, allegedly, I would put into effect a bunch of ways to make sure that my vice president could not have the same idea and do the same thing to me.
This is where the lines are for me. I don't know if I necessarily buy into that particular conspiracy theory, but do I believe that there's probably like a lot of like infrastructure in this country, especially in that area of the country, like that northeastern area, that probably has some secrets in it because of some shit that was going on during those time periods when they were building that stuff. I mean, like on the simple side, like there's like stories out there that we know about of them like getting into hotel builds and putting in microphones and shit to spy on, dignitaries and all that sort of shit. Like we know that they were doing all that sort of stuff when it comes to the spying and the ways in which it was kind of outward, right? But there was also a lot of insular shit. This was not the only time this came up. As we were in New Jersey and we were talking about Trump Tower, conversations about like, what do you do with a building like that, your name on it and stuff like that. And I was like, well, part of it is probably just like, you have a place where you do your shady shit, right? like by having a building of that size, you basically could be running an entire business that nobody has any access to but you, if you're the one that owns the fucking building, right?
Does he still own the building? Like,
I don't think so. I think actually specifically in Atlantic City, I think it's even been bought and changed already, or I'm not too sure. Yeah. Is that the one that the Tesla exploded in front of a couple of months back?
I thought that was the one in actual New York. I didn't think it was.
That might be the one in New York. No, yeah. That might be the one in New York. Yeah, but
because we're talking
no, I'm not too sure about the one in Atlantic City. Didn't get out much, to be entirely honest. Because the other thing is that it also rained the whole time.
Yeah, I mean that's just a fact of the.
But it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like a good we get to be cozy for Thanksgiving atmosphere.
Yeah, which is exactly the type of thing you want. Like, I was happy that after the rain on Tuesday, it was dry the rest of the week because I was able to bring in the air conditioners that we still had in. And that noticeably improved my sleeping experience. Not having cold air drifting in through my air conditioner in my room. Instantly like 10 degrees warmer in my room at night, which was
surprise.
But yeah, so Wednesday, like bleary-eyed, I look and I see this thing like, can you come through an open mic on Saturday? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that, right? I don't have anything else like really planned for it, and that'll be good. It'll be a good way to like get out on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, because I mean, we'll talk about what we do for Thanksgiving in this house because we kicked it up a notch this year, and I'm very excited to share the notch that we kicked it up to. But yes, so I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And I invited Claude because I had mentioned to him, because we've been the beat 'em up boys. We've been spending Monday nights at like around like after bedtime for his boys. Claude and I get together and we play through beat 'em ups. So while we were playing through the rest of the Capcom beat 'em up collection, we did, I don't know what we did. Captain Commando, I think we started with, Battle Circuit, and then Armored Warriors. Which, if you have not played Battle Circuit or Armored Warriors, they're two of the best beat-em-ups ever. And I just can't believe I never interacted with them in my life. Like, we got to talk about, like, we should do some beat-em-ups. Siege is basically the next time the beat-em-up collection is like $10.
Where would those have been found? Like, when and where?
So they were arcade games. And that's just it. They would have been on arcades, but sort of in that time where arcades were kind of dying in the 90s. Because Battle Circuit is, I think, 95. Like, it's one of the later ones. And then Armored Warriors is definitely 97. And, like, Battle Circuit has RPG elements in a fucking coin-op arcade experience. Like, between the levels, the money that you collect in the level can be used to purchase upgrades to your character. And that is just otherworldly to me. That existed in a beat-em-up thing. Because I know that, like, Double Dragon 3 sort of had that. However, Double Dragon 3, and you correct me if I'm wrong, there may have been other ones before it. I mean, like, there were definitely beat 'em ups where, like, the more quarters you put in, the more health you got. I think about Gauntlet and Warrior Needs Food Badly, and food is another quarter. So they, because even if you're not taking damage, your life counter is slowly ticking down. So those existed, but Double Dragon 3, the shops in Double Dragon 3 in the arcade version, you could purchase like upgrades to your character or weapons, and it cost real world quarters to like power up your character. But I remember like there was this switch over in arcades in the 90s. Like fighting games really took hold. Beat 'em ups were this like sort of gap. I mean, especially Final Fight was originally meant to be a sequel to Street Fighter before it became its own series, and then weirdly merged with Street Fighter via the Alpha series. And then Street Fighter 6 takes place in Metro City. So yeah. But then, you know, like light gun games really became popular. And then like a couple of games that were sort of like the computer mouse experience. I don't know the name of this game, but I remember playing it where you moved your character with 4 like buttons, like arcade buttons. And then your right hand, you aimed and shot the gun. Like it was really like WASD mouse style, but it was an arcade game. And there were 4 of them together. Yeah, it was basically
like a twin stick shooter, only instead of sticks, you had buttons and a trackball is what I remember. Yeah. I remember there were ones that had the trackball.
Yeah, so like that sort of became big too before like Redemption took over as king of the arcade. So it just feels like the fact that I have been able to play like Captain Commando, like an actual Captain Commando machine kind of blows my mind. I've played every other game in the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection. One of the reasons why I purchased it is like I've played 5 of these games in arcades, and I've beaten 2.5 of those 5 games. I say that because Lord of Dragons, which is included in it, I got all the way to the last level, but I accidentally switched my character when I continued before the final boss. So instead of having my level 16 like cleric, I had a level 1 elf, and I just got decimated by the dragon. But like, but Knights of the Round is a game that I beat at the Dream Machine at the Leominster Searstown Mall. Warriors of Fate. I beat that game like 100 times because it was like I was on vacation and I just got so good at that game. And then like I've played Captain Commando, and I had played, like I said, Lord of the Dragons. I'm trying to think. Oh, and Final Fight. Like I've beaten Final Fight on an actual. I've played Final Fight on an actual machine. So Battle Circuit and Armored Warriors were the ones I was excited about, and they blew me away with like the mechanics that are in them. But also, while we were being the beat 'em up boys, Claude and I mentioned the bacon cheeseburger, and he's like, oh, I should try that sometime. So then suddenly I have this event the coming Saturday where I'm like, if you can get away, like you should come out, you'll get to, you know, see the music that's going on, these people that I hang out with all the time, and you'll get to try one of these burgers. So the Saturday after Thanksgiving, I wind up at this open mic, and it was kind of like a Thanksgiving celebration all on its own. All of my like musical friends that I've made over the past couple of years were there to perform. There was like a real sense of community and love in that room. Like it was really just wonderful. Like I just want to like, nice. I really felt like the Thanksgiving spirit was alive in that room. And, you know, getting Claude to come out because he's got the boys, right? So it's like, he even said like, this is my first time, I think, out without my kids or wife since they were born. Like, I feel like an adult again, and it's weird. And, I mean...
Yeah, people don't know what it's like to be in those kinds of situations. I've got a lot of friends over the last few years that have had kids that, you know, we've made it a point to make sure that we offer to babysit the kids or take them somewhere without the kids, because, like, having that time to not be a parent after you've become a new parent is... it's necessary and rare.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was this just wonderful thing. So I think that, like, thanks to Boomerangs for, like, giving Mark another shot after they had booked an actual band to play where he usually does his open mic, and just thanks to my whole, like, community of musicians that I have found myself a part of for that. Like, it was a wonderful way to spend the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Which I usually spend doing Thanksgiving too, which, like, because of what we do on the actual day, which I promise we'll get to, right? We still got time. But Mom was doing wreath making and Dale had stuff, so it's like, I'll go out and do this. And then we had, like, Thanksgiving dinner at like 8:00, and it was actually fun to do it that way, you know? Like, as an actual dinner that we looked forward to all day. Not something that felt like stressful and, oh, we need to be eating by this time, right? So that means we need to start this at this time. Like, we just took it easy. We actually enjoyed ourselves. I can tell you, it's refreshing. It's refreshing to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, well, you shared a little bit of your Thanksgiving, so let's not leave the people in suspense. What we have done in this family since 2012, because in 2011, we went down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee to spend... This is so crazy. Thanksgiving in Dollywood, because 2011 was when me and my grandmother got into a huge fight because I was sick of taking her shit about how she treated my mother. So I'm like, I'm just fucking done with you, lady. And I walked out of her life. And my family fully supported that. Like, it kind of felt like one of us had to pull this Band-Aid off. And thank God Devin finally did. So as a family, we agreed, well, let's go down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. We'll go to Dollywood for Thanksgiving. There was this beautiful, like, barbecue place, like, in the same area in the Smoky Mountains that did a buffet, like a barbecue buffet for Thanksgiving, including barbecue turkey and all this. So we just did that. We got to do an alpine slide. Have you ever done an alpine slide?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right?
They're crazy.
Yeah, right? It's essentially bobsled without snow around to protect you. Though I know the snow can also break your neck in a bobsledding scenario. But yeah, we did an alpine slide. Everyone, the whole family did it. And then we went to Dollywood. And actually, it was kind of a disappointing experience. I'm not going to lie. Because we'd been to Dollywood before for my 21st birthday. Coming home, we stopped at Dollywood and we had a lovely time. So that's why we thought, oh, this will be nice to go back. But it didn't really work. Just like, don't go to Dollywood on Thanksgiving, I guess, is the recommendation that I have to everybody.
Sure, yeah.
But by leaving Dollywood early, we got to have dinner at a Mellow Mushroom. It was the first time I ate at a Mellow Mushroom. Have you ever eaten at a Mellow Mushroom? Are you familiar with Mellow Mushroom?
No, what is a Mellow Mushroom?
Mellow Mushroom is a pizza company, and I am only familiar with it because the brothers Chapman, the creatives behind HomestarRunner.com, they were commissioned by this pizza company. They exist primarily in the South to do, like, short films and create characters to, like, market Mellow Mushroom. And the whole thing is that, like, they're very psychedelic, like, sort of drug coated. They have, like, a lot of, like, craft beers there and everything. Their pizza is exceptional. Like, they experiment. Like, I've had a pretzel crust. That was one of the first, like, places I had a pretzel crust before it came to, like, Little Caesar and things like that. Just excellent food. I used to go to one in Toms River, New Jersey, like, in December, like, right before, like, the snows would hit. We'd go up there, but unfortunately with the pandemic, that location closed, which makes me even more happy that the last time we were there, the giant Mel mushroom from the sign had fallen and shattered, and Dale and I grabbed, like, a couple of pieces of him and brought him home with us. So Mel lives in the Decker house a little bit still. That makes me happy. So we go to Mellow Mushroom, which I had wanted to go to specifically because I had seen the Brothers Chapman animation, which, if I can find it, it will be up in supplemental materials for this part of the episode. Because it's so good. Like, it's early Homestar stuff. You see a lot of the sensibilities. And honestly, I reference it more than, like, Homestar stuff. When I think of references that I make that the Brothers Chapman, like, put into existence in the world.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
But okay.
So we go at Mel Mushroom, and then, it's Thanksgiving night. We're like, oh, what are we gonna do? So there was a Magi quest, which is like, it's like wizard LARPing, kind of. It's mostly for little kids, but Dale had gone to one in Myrtle Beach a couple of years before, so she's like, I'd like to do this Magi quest. And, she's like right before she's going into freaking high school and stuff like that, so she's still young enough to enjoy it. So Mom and her go over to Magi Quest, and Dad and I are like, well, we're going to go see a movie at the theater across the street. Now, do you recall what film came out Thanksgiving of 2011, Sejan?
Thanksgiving of 2011? Was that Avatar, maybe?
Jack and Jill.
Oh.
Which is what my father wanted to see. The options that we had were Arthur Christmas, Jack and Jill, which my dad was like, that's the one I would like to see. And then the other one was Muppets, the Jason Segel, Amy Adams Muppets.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And like, based on the timing, I'm like, look, I'll go see Jack and Jill, but it starts later. Like, they're going to be done and they'll be waiting on us. The one that works with the time is the Muppets. And I'm not upset about that because I was so excited for that Muppets film, right? Jason Segel was flying as high as possible. So we did go see the Muppets, which my father continually reminded me, we had an opportunity to see that Adam Sandler film. Remember that? Remember that in Pigeon Forge? We saw the fucking Muppets.
I mean, sorry, but
I'm like,
I think you made the right choice.
I do too. Like, we could have seen Arthur Christmas, Dad. And he's like, yeah, no, we made the better choice between Arthur Christmas and the Muppets. But I wanted to see the Adam Sandler movie, Devin. And now that you do the podcast, I'm never going to let you forget it.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's what we did 2011. But then when we came back for 2012, it's like, okay, so we've established that we're going to be quote unquote out of state for Thanksgiving now. But we don't really have to go that far out of state. If you're in Massachusetts, you're technically outside of the state of Rhode Island. So what we started was a tradition called Steaksgiving, where we would go to the Smith & Wollensky in Boston that used to be in the castle. Like, they had a location that was in a literal fucking castle.
Right, yeah.
And it would be the only one that was open on Thanksgiving. So we'd go to this castle to eat steak, but then eventually they started closing that one on Thanksgiving and only having their like seaport one open because it's bigger. So they could accommodate more guests. Like, the castle was relatively small. Like, the experience was the fact that you're eating in a fucking castle. Like, it was a for real castle in Boston. Like an old fort from, like Revolutionary times that they converted into a steakhouse, which is sort of the whole steez of Smith & Wollensky, because the flagship, the one in New York, is an old bank, and you literally eat in the vault. If you want to see what it looks like, they go there in The Devil Wears Prada. It's where Meryl Streep gets her steak from every day, as Smith & Wollensky. So we've been going to Smith & Wollensky as our Steaksgiving on the actual Thanksgiving for years. I mean, we've gone to a couple of other ones. But last year, I'm like, okay, if we're back here next year, I'm going to have saved up my money, and I'm actually going to pull the trigger on getting the tomahawk ribeye. In the year since I said that tomahawk ribeye has been upgraded to not being a 32-ounce steak, but being a 44-ounce steak, and it's now Wagyu beef. So there was also a bit of a level up to the price. Like, I had saved for $140 steak, and they're like, it's $250. And I'm like, you know what? I have been putting aside money for this Thanksgiving, like, just like a couple of dollars every day so that I can do it. I had enough money to pull it off. And then the family also threw in, because that's a lot of meat, right? Like, we don't all need our own steaks. We can just share the bone-in ribeye. And that was such an experience, because it comes to the table, it's hanging on top of a carving board. They have two like metal dowels and the steak's hanging there. And they have a guy who comes out with a chunk of beef fat and a goddamn blowtorch. And he melts that beef fat and lets it drip down the steak to enhance the flavor. And then he pulls it down and he carves it up perfectly. Like our waitress was like, "Oh yeah, he's TikTok famous for this." Like you are in the presence of royalty as far as like people who do this preparation.
That's amazing.
It really just made the whole experience feel like a holiday experience, not just like going to the steakhouse. So I think that's going to be part of the new tradition now, is just getting that and sharing it as a family. But it was just like a wonderful, like, we go all out for it. Like, and it's weirdly getting a $250 steak for Steaksgiving is still cheaper than a trip down to Pigeon Forge, where you have to pay for gas and accommodations and everything there. So by staying localer, we kind of made it more palatable. And, I mean, God, that steak was so friggin' good, man.
Yeah, you're making me just want to go and have steak now. So
yeah, I'm sorry about that. I do apologize. So that was our actual Thanksgiving, which was nice. It felt pretty good. It felt pretty solid. Which I think now brings us to the more Say Report coded moment of this episode, which is, did you see some movies for, like, your Thanksgiving vacation, Sejan?
Yeah, Dev. I in fact did. I saw a couple of movies over my Thanksgiving vacation. In fact, I think that there's even another movie that we haven't quite talked about yet, right?
But with your delay in getting home, that movie has been out for 2 weekends, and I think we're good to discuss that film, right? I don't know if we're better, but we're definitely for good. So do we want to start with that one? Do we want to share our thoughts on Wicked Part 2? I'm sorry, Wicked For Good?
I actually think we should go in the other direction. Because the other two movies we're probably not going to talk about today / here.
That's true. Right? That is a very good point. Yeah. And then we'll finish on the Wicked experience.
And then we can let the timer tell us when to stop bashing.
Good. I think that's smart. So share with the people, in reverse order, the films that you saw for Thanksgiving.
Okay, going in reverse order then. Let's start with, we got to go and see Brendan Fraser's latest film together, Rental Family.
Yes, we did. It was sort of when this was going to be recorded on the 30th of November. We were going to be excited about celebrating, like, the halfway point to Brendan Fraser History Month. Because we got to see a Brendan Fraser movie together in theater. I don't think we've ever done that before. Like, I think this legitimately might have been the first time, as fans of Brendan Fraser, that we were in the same theater watching a film.
Yeah, because I don't think that, I mean, by the time that we were hanging out, I mean, when was the last Mummy movie, maybe?
So the Mummy was 2008, but I think it came out, like, off season, like not at the time where we would have gone and seen movies together. And I didn't see Escape from Planet Earth is the one that he's in, or Planet 51. I know it's one of those, and they're basically the same movie in my head, which is not fair. Yeah. I understand. It's Escape from Planet Earth. And while we saw a lot of animated stuff, we missed that one. We didn't see Furry Vengeance together. Like, so actually getting to sit next to you while we saw a Brendan Fraser film after not 10 years of celebrating Brendan Fraser History Month together, like for a whole year before this show even existed, really felt like a cool culmination. And I gotta tell you, that film was a delight. Absolute delight.
There's so for anyone that isn't aware, Rental Family is a family dramedy, really more comedy than drama, but there is definitely some heavier elements to it. And it's about a man who lives in Japan, an American that lives in Japan, who starts working for a company that hires him out as big dumb American to like show up for things, and for some people that means just showing up for like a birthday party, for it to be like, their arm candy, but for some other people it means more. It gets pretty heavy. Like I said, there is definitely some heavier elements to it. But yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, like smiled the whole time, cried when I felt like I was supposed to cry. Like it was a well put together film.
Yes, which you had some theories about, but we're going to save those for actual Brendan Fraser History Month, right? Like, spoilers, we're going to be looking into this movie more in depth come May
I
of
will say this
2026.
right now, right here.
Yeah.
One of the most impressive things in it is, and this is me talking completely out my ass as somebody that does not know the language at all, but Brendan Fraser speaking Japanese half the time, like I was not expecting it. Let me put it that way, and it came across as quite a cool like thing about the character that, you know, he has been living there. He does speak some of the language, but like because he's American, they go in and out of English for him and things like that.
Right, but I think, and that's the most interesting part of the film to me, is that, like, by all accounts, it's a foreign film. Like, not just by the nature of the fact that it was made by a Canadian company and a Japanese company, but, like, by the very nature of, like, the fact that it was all, like, Japanese creatives who were behind, like, the script and the story. So the culture, like, it was like seeing a foreign film. And foreign film, like, we've definitely mentioned it before, but one of my favorite formative moments in our college experience, our shared college experience, was taking that Cuban cinema class. Like, I love... Of my friends, the person I want next to me when I'm watching a foreign film, it's Sejan Sarowick. I will just admit that straight up, like no chaser. I love doing it. So watching this movie that is, I'd say it's probably more than 50% like Japanese language. Like you're reading subtitles, and I was, and that's also because it is not made in America, where it would literally be a mad dash to get everybody speaking English, right? My favorite thing, the air quotes around that sarcastic phrase, is when I'm watching a movie and they're like, "We'll just speak English for you, dumb American." And it's like, cool. Like, I do like that they're insulting the audience member who doesn't want to have to read their movie, but it also just feels like the stupidest narrative convenience.
Well, right, especially when we're supposed to believe that this is a guy that lives there, loves living there, right? Like, it doesn't seem like there is never a point where he feels like, where it feels like Japan is antagonistic to him in any way in the movie. And right, so like I think there's a really easy way to do, you know, dumb American in foreign country movie and make it so that it feels hostile, but it actually is quite the opposite. The entire movie is about how it is not hostile, and it's just about you know, the connection between people in these environments. And it was beautiful. It was a delightful, beautiful film that we both had some real strong feelings about.
Yes.
We, as you said before, we'll talk about
I'm
later.
excited to watch it again, because that's the other thing. It's still in theaters, so like I definitely got my fun viewing of it. I do want to watch it with more of an academic lean. Some of the things that Sejan had to say about the film as I was taking them back to his parents' house, like really got my mind thinking about what the intentions were by kind of everybody who was involved with the piece. Like, so I am excited to look at that one with a deeper eye. And I don't know when it's going to be available on digital, probably shortly. Like, I don't think it's going to be in theaters that long, unfortunately. In fact, while I'm here, I'll do it live. I'll see if it's still showing, because we were able to see it at the local theater, which is kind of important because the next film we're about to talk out did require some travel.
While Devin's looking up to see what's going on with the history there of your rental family, I'll talk about the next thing we did.
Yeah.
We found ourselves in a gorgeous little theater out in the middle of Brookline, Mass, where we got to see the latest and possibly greatest. Tune in to find out. Adam Sandler film, Jay Kelly. We got to see not the premiere, but we got to see an in-theater 35 millimeter print of Noah Baumbach's George Clooney led character study about an actor who is kind of falling apart at the end of his career. Well, but the funny part is it doesn't feel like it's really the end of his career so much as it just feels like he is realizing that his career is just not going to last forever, right? So it's more about him kind of dealing with the mortality, you know, his own mortality, but more than that, the mortality of his self that he has presented to the world, the actor that he has become. It's really interesting. Like Clooney is phenomenal, and as we were saying, we will talk more about this on show proper and stuff like that. But like Clooney's great. Sandler was just something else. It was such a good time. But then on top of that, like I think what we can talk about here was just the experience of getting to go to just that gorgeous theater that we found. I don't know, like it's like a hidden gem of a theater to me, because I don't know how I lived in that area for so long
and never
heard about this.
Like well, that's funny, because I think talking about the culture. So I will say this: Rental Family still doing one show. Well, I don't know if it's one showing a day. It's because it's later in the day that we're recording this. So let me actually look at tomorrow. Rental Family, 2 showings a day, a 3:50 and a 9:55. So it is still in theaters where we saw it. Probably not going to last. Once you get down to like 1 or 2 showings a day, you are sort of not long for this world, especially in the modern cinematic climate, which I promise we're going to have to talk more about in part 2 of this episode. Yay! But I will also, on Rental Family, before we move over to the Jay Kelly experience, but more the experience, like the theater itself, it was top 5. It was the 5th film that weekend that it released that we saw it. So, like, some accolades for Rental Family as well. Like, I want to make sure it gets the thumbs up it deserves. So, like, you have the chance to see it, and I'm sure it will be everywhere. Also, I mean, like, I know we could be cursing it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it got certainly some award discussion for the Golden Globes, with it being the foreign press that is responsible for those. Yeah. But again, we will definitely dive deeper into Rental Family when it comes to Brendan Fraser History Month. Speaking on Jay Kelly, the fact that we were able to actually attend one of those limited engagements that Netflix holds for all of their films so that they can be award eligible, like, I feel kind of blessed that it happened. And it's one of those situations where, like, it feels like this hidden gem of a location to us, even just being an hour away. Because it's only an hour away from Rhode Island. Like, it's not we'll talk more about that in part 2 as well. But there's a reason why we're recording this one later at night. And I'm excited to share the reason with you. But the whole thing, it's an independent house. It's got 6 auditoriums where they present. Some of those auditoriums only have like 30 seats in them. Like real screening room atmosphere for some of the stuff they're going to do. And it's so funny because, like, I also felt like, how did I not know about this place? But then I was talking to one of my coworkers who lived in Boston, and he's like, "Oh, where'd you see Jay Kelly?" I'm like, the Coolidge Corner. And he's like, "Oh, I know Coolidge Corner, right over there in Brookline, right? It has its own tea stop. That used to be where I would see movies when I lived in Boston." So it's a hidden gem for those people who do not live in the area, but it is definitely known. And that made me happy. That actually made me swell up with a little bit of pride.
Well, and we weren't the only ones in the theater that day, right? Like, one of the big things that we've noticed more and more as we've gone to movies, and we've commented on the show, is that we're often the only people in the theater, or there's maybe just one other couple or things like that. And part of that is because we look for those times for that to be more likely. But that used to not be the case. There used to not be times where that was possible.
Right. Like, it is...
Right? Yeah, like the fact that we went to go see Jay Kelly, and there was maybe 12 other people in that auditorium with us.
I mean, I think 12 is an understatement. I'd say there were at least 20 in there. There were 12 in the front section where we got... Our seats were perfect. Like, when I say that, like, middle... So that we're at the middle of the screen, but there was that whole section behind us that was also full of people. Because you had that lovely discussion with that older gentleman about whether or not you enjoyed the film, which was just delightful. And also we got swag. Like the biggest problem with going to see Jay Kelly in theaters was that I now see how much care Netflix actually puts into those limited engagement showings and screenings. Because we got full-on programs that are, like, thick and substantial. Sejan and I both were lucky enough to go to the Hateful Eight, like, road show when it was on, like, 35 millimeter over at the Providence Place Mall.
and split with an intermission and all that. Yeah.
Like treated like a road show experience where it would travel from theater to theater, and you'd have the live orchestra and you'd have an actual intermission. And we got programs with that. But if it's more than 6 pages, I would be surprised. It's in the studio with me, but I don't want to have to go get it because I have it like under stuff because I don't want it to curl or anything like that. But this the Jay Kelly program. I haven't looked at mine yet. Have you actually? You had plenty of time in the airport to maybe peruse yours.
Well, I had checked mine. I made sure that it was in a safely sandwiched in my because I wasn't going to let anything happen, like me crushing it in my backpack or anything like that, you know?
Yeah. But yes.
But so it's a lot of stills from the movie, a lot of really nice behind the scenes like shots and stuff, and then just kind of, you know, paragraph long kind of commentary on it. Nothing that is like so deep. It's the kind of thing that if you were going to do like a write-up on Jay Kelly, you would probably want to have this as a good primary source for just like, this is what the production says happens. But, you know, I wouldn't trust it as like a Bible or anything about like the making of the movie.
I mean, it's very much like for your consideration kind of literature.
Exactly.
So that, like, yeah.
It is marketing, right? And it is good marketing. It is really nicely made, and as the person, you know, being marketed to in this situation, you know, like some people don't like being in that, being like seeing themselves in that situation, but like this is the world we live in, right? But so like as somebody being marketed to, the fact that I feel like I did get like treated well, like because this thing is a prize, right? And that's not all we got, right? So we got this really nice book.
We also got numbered prints of the film, like, you know, those cheap sort of like posters you get from movie theaters of the big movies that they're having. I don't know if they have them out there. They have them over at the showcase. I have like 3 different Running Man posters, and you know how much I liked that movie.
No, they've started putting little one sheets out for films. If you go in, you usually see them sitting on the ticket desk.
Yeah. So we got a one sheet of that, but it's actually like numbered, like it's blank of 5,000 prints. And I don't know if that's per location or anything like that, but like that numbering is cool because it makes it feel like something substantial. And it's a much higher quality one sheet than those ones that you see at like normal movie theaters.
I may be wrong. We might have to look into the artwork for it, but it outright says Netflix 35 millimeter special engagement like on it. So like it is the artwork for this experience, right? It is unique to this to the 35 millimeter experience as well. So that was really cool.
So it does feel like a prize. But then the best part, the thing that just totally sold it for me, is that we got like a little piece of film, like of the film.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, like,
do you know what scene you got? I figured out.
I haven't looked at mine yet. Again, I wanted to make sure that we recorded before I looked at it because I wanted to save it for Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe. That whole representation of it.
We'll talk more about it then there. But
like getting an actual piece of film at a limited 35 millimeter engagement of this production, like, that's exciting. That like made me so happy. For like the whole experience, and like walking out of there with swag and talking to people. Like, I do this bit, and I mostly do it for the Siegen. I'll admit that I do it for Siegen. I don't do it for everybody. Where like when the credits start, sort of the pre-credits, the part where it's just like names and pictures before the scroll. Like if there's a big name, I'll be like, oh shit, that was George Clooney? And Siegen, he's known me. We've been seeing movies together for almost 20 years. We've known each other for 20 years. Right at this point. Don't turn to dust, Siegen. I need you for a whole other recording tonight. But so he leans over and he goes, I'm going to go use the restroom. I know you're going to stay and watch the credits. I'll see you in the lobby. But if I don't piss right now, I'm going to piss myself. Is essentially the vibe that he gave out. Which, like, that one becomes difficult because this was like an old style movie house. So he had to like shimmy past some people as he's already in this distressed state.
My exact words were, I've had to piss since the popcorn started singing about the lobby.
Yeah. Oh, so he's got to like shimmy past in that. But then like I can tell that he's still in the auditorium when George Clooney's name comes up, and I go, oh man, that was George Clooney? And I hear him from the door just laugh. in addition to like, these guys would have been a bigger deal if we had recorded this episode when we had intended to, but Bizarro, Devin, and Sejin, who were seated 2 rows ahead of us.
Yeah, they also thought it was a.
They also got a kick out of it. So like that was fun. So it was like, and also as 2 people, the only Adam Sandler film, like, because we actually did this one. I'll share this part here, and then we'll move past it, and then look out for our episode again dropping this Friday, for the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe, where we actually take a deeper look into J. Kelly. But the only one that we ever saw in theaters together was I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. So after that whole journey that we've taken, like crafting our Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe together over these past 5 years, like for it to culminate in us sitting next to each other in an old style movie house, watching the latest film that he's a part of, like, I can't think of a better victory lap, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it was pretty perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was wonderful. Which brings us to Wicked Part 2, Aka Wicked for Good. Aka, the film that I don't think is going to make any more money in the box office. How about you, CJ?
I think that Wicked for Good was always destined to just be the second disc when you buy Wicked at Walmart. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
like in the future, like, and I mean the near future, you're probably never going to see Wicked for Good on its own available. You will for the first few months because there were people that bought the first half that want to be able to buy the second half. But at some point, you're going to see a switch where this entire package is just whenever you want to buy Wicked, you're only going to be able to buy the full experience. And that thought was so pervasive the entire fucking time for me. All I kept thinking was, man, this movie would have meant so much more if I had just seen this all a year ago. By putting this year-long intermission in the middle of these 2 movies, it just really, part of me even wonders if they had done like a Valentine's release for part 2, you know, a Christmas release for part 1, Valentine's release for part 2, like, ooh, like daring that they would think to put movies out after they've been filmed, but like.
This guy,
I don't know.
he got thought. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. So spoilers for Wicked. I'm just going to say Wicked for Good. Spoilers for both of them, but I'm not going to pull punches on this and having this conversation. Again, like there does seem to be this like feeling in the world that if you give it 2 weekends, then everybody's kind of had the opportunity to see the film, who would have gone and seen it. So that just on the table. And there is a sequence at the end of the movie that is kind of wonderful, but it would have hit so much better if instead of a year since they mirrored the first interaction between Madame Morrible and Glinda, I saw it happen again. like Glinda dresses her down the same way that she's dressed down, and that happens like within kind of the first 45 minutes of Wicked Part 1. So then in the last like 20 minutes of Wicked for Good, it's this mirrored moment, and it's like, that does not hit the same a year later.
Or at the, it's the kind of thing where if a sequel, like trying to think about these as 2 separate movies, right? And I think that's kind of maybe where we need to first kind of decide, are we going to continue to do that? But that's what I mean when I say that I don't think this movie was ever meant to really be this standalone thing, but they released it as the standalone thing. So in that way, like talking about Wicked for Good, it's the kind of thing where if this sequel had been 10 years from now and people had time to start Anchorman style quoting this movie at each other, like Wicked, the soundtrack had become the greatest selling record in 10 years, and they were like, we're finally going to do part 2. Then when you make those kinds of references, they work because people have gotten it into their vocabulary, right? So it has either not been out long enough or it has been too long.
Yeah. See Iron Man to Avengers Endgame and some of the callbacks that happened there. right? In a 10-year sequence. Like, we have quantifiable evidence that what Siegen just described happens. My biggest issue with Wicked for Good is the fact that it doesn't feel like it could stand on its own. And I have not seen a lot of like movies that are split up into two pieces. I think it's the last Hunger Games, Mockingjay, right? Part 1 and Part 2, and Avengers Infinity War into Avengers Endgame. Which, by like the very nature of like the title sequence, I know it's like sort of one story, but it also feels more like a sequel as opposed to a part 2. I guess Kill Bill is another one, which is ironic that you say that. But yeah, so it is like, and that was sort of the one that made it viable in Hollywood, that like, oh, we can split up these stories and it works. But Kill Bill Part 2, I think, can be watched on its own, just as I think Kill Bill Part 1 can. I don't know.
Well, I think that's because I've got some strong feelings about Tarantino that we'll talk about in Part 2 today, but I do think that at the very least, we can call him a competent filmmaker.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that he's an extremely competent filmmaker. And so he's able to do that. Plus, he also, being the auteur, has a lot more control over every element. So, like, it's not like a director or, it's not like a producer says, oh, we're going to cut this into 2 movies, and then a director and a writer, and like everybody has to get in the room, and then what is a horse made by committee, right? Like, that decision of, like, what is this going to be turns into a fucking mess. Like, when it's just one dude making that decision. I think the bigger example is looking at things like the Harry Potter movies or Twilight, or you had mentioned
what was it? Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, right? The ways in which they've done that with a lot of books where they feel like they need to break it up. Or look at the Lord of the Rings movies, although those were already broken up stories, but the ways in which they pulled elements from later books into earlier movies in order to make things make a little bit more sense. Like, there are ways that you can do this kind of stuff and it works, but this wasn't it. Plain and simple. I think that's the big thing.
By all accounts, too, they shot them at the same time. So, like, when it was being made, the intention by the director was that this is going to be one movie. And then when it's, 5 hours and 13 minutes, it is longer. The complete Wicked is longer than the longest extended Lord of the Rings film, which just blows my mind. Because what happens in Wicked for Good, like, nobody talks about the second act of Wicked. On this show, Siegen was like, yeah, I saw it. And then he, like, stopped the conversation when he realized he could not remember anything about the second act of the show that he saw live, like, as a theatrical experience.
Well, and then we talked about the idea that show infamously, like, Wicked, the understood opinion of Wicked is that the second half is actually not that strong, but the first half is so strong that it carries, right? And like, when you're seeing a show, like a one night experience, that's an acceptable outcome, I think, right? Like, I know plenty of shows where, like, yeah, I don't really love the way that it wraps up, but man, do I love everything that leads up, like, right? Like, I can say that about a movie. I can say that about a play. I can say that about a TV show. But, like, when... but, like, when you're going to give me a year between to think about that, it doesn't...
Also, it's an adaptation. You have the opportunity to maybe beef up something that is historically known to be kind of thin and weak as a part of the story. I think
they thought they did that with 2 original songs being in the second half.
Yeah, I don't know. No Place Like Home felt like the most fanfic insert music. I can't believe that Steven Soderbergh actually wrote
Steven Soderbergh.
No,
Schwartzman.
Schwartzman. Sorry, there's too many SS's when it comes to Steven. Yeah, Steven Schwartz actually wrote those 2 songs. Like, that's just unbelievable to me. And as I see that we're running out of time, I am just going to say John M. Chu, director of Wicked and Wicked for Good, directed Now You See Me 2, and has gone on record now that Now You See Me, Now You Don't, aka Now You 3 Me is out, that he wanted to call the second one Now You Don't, but was shut down by the studio because you can't put "don't" in a title. People will not see a negatively titled film. And I just think it's hilarious that it's all connected, right?
I do think I do think that a lot of what we praised in Wicked for good in terms of the design of things and stuff like that is really interesting still. Like I do think there is stuff to see in this movie that is like impressive, right? There's some phenomenal sets and you know, the music is good. Even the 2 new songs. Like I, as somebody that is not like heavily invested in that show, knew that there was new music in the second half, but as I couldn't remember the second half, had to be reminded which ones were the new ones when we left the theater that night, you know?
All right. So time has run out on this episode, and what I'm just going to leave you with before the to be continued is that had we recorded this on the when we intended to, Wicked's domestic gross to date, so as of November 30th, would have been $269,201,035. And with that, to be continued.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.